This video is intended for adult Star Wars collectors. Hi there, welcome back to Nick's Vintage Toys and Collectibles. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars retro figures, the Wave 2, and these were made by Hasbro in 2020. And they arrived yesterday and they were really nicely packaged in this shipping box. So there was no damage to any of the cards. My first impression of these figures, as soon as I took them out of the shipping box, was the quality of the card backs is not that good. They've actually used a really thin, flimsy cardboard, and also the bubbles are made of really thin plastic as well. And if you consider some of these, I've got this reproduction card back that someone's made up, and I think the quality of this card is actually better than the ones that Hasbro use. So that's something that Hasbro could improve on. And like a lot of Star Wars collectors, I don't like the fact that they've put all the weathering around the edges of these cards. I just think that is really unnecessary, and that doesn't really look that good. And I don't like the retro sticker that they've put right on the front of the artwork. I think that was quite unnecessary as well, and that would have looked much better without it. And in fact, I might try and remove them stickers if I can. But even with the edge wear and the dodgy sticker on the front, these are still awesome action figures and they're well worth collecting. And we'll start off with my favourite character, Boba Fett. And the cards are exactly the same on the backs. And if you're a Boba Fett collector like I am, this is a must-have. And I think the artwork on the front of this card looks awesome. And we'll just compare this to one of the original vintage figures. They look exactly the same to me, and I think if that one was out of the packaging, it would be hard to tell the difference between the two of them. I think that's just a complete replica of the original figure. And this is going to look awesome beside all my other Boba Fetts in my collection. And we've also got Princess Leia, and she looks really good on her card, with a nice image of Carrie Fisher. And if you compare her to the vintage figure, you'll see that the bodies are pretty much exactly the same, but the faces are totally different. And it actually makes me wonder whether Hasbro have been looking at the people who have been recreating some of the vintage Star Wars figures and doing a really good job, and thinking to themselves, they could do the same thing and make a lot of money out of it. Because obviously if you look on eBay, the collectors like some of the reproduction figures. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And next we've got Lando Calrissian. This one also looks exactly the same, apart from the vintage one is made of a more shinier plastic than the modern one. And if you're new to collecting Star Wars, this would be the perfect way to start off a collection, by buying these figures. This was one of my favourite figures from back in the 80s when I was a kid, the Han Solo in Hoth gear, with the really cool picture of him on the Tauntaun. And as you can see there, he is very similar to the vintage figure. He's just got different colour paint on his face. But other than that, they're nearly exactly the same. They would look really cool just like this on display, with the vintage figure standing next to them. And I've also got the Luke Skywalker, which was another figure that I really liked back in the 80s. And this is the Bespin Luke. He's also nearly exactly the same as the vintage figure. That's a Luke Skywalker. Last but not least, we've got the Yoda figure. And if you were subscribed to my old channel, Nick's Toy Barn, you'll know it was a Yoda figure that started me collecting Star Wars figures again. Because when I was doing some gardening in my sister's garden, and I actually dug up a vintage Yoda figure, which I'll show you in a minute to compare it with this one. And here he is, the reason why I've got this Star Wars collection. And you wouldn't think that he was buried in a garden for years and years, because he's still in really good condition. But anyway, if you compare him to the retro figure, you can see they are very similar. They're just slightly different colours. And he's got all his accessories there, which look very similar as well. The cape is made of slightly different material, but other than that, they're nearly exactly the same. If you can get these for a decent price, I'd highly recommend these figures, and I think they're well worth getting, and they look really good in your Star Wars collection. Let me know what you think about them in the comments below. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.